it's not that they want a vegan world. I think they want vegan money. I freaked out when I could not remember the pattern on my phone. And that didn't work because I started questioning absorption of these
Hmm.
and of these supplements and how like it's useless. They're useless. She told me that my cholesterol level was, in her words, dangerously low, especially young girls saying, I haven't got my period this month. The hosts of these groups saying, "Oh, that is not possible that you lost your period. Surely it's something else." I come from a scientific background, and this is where I felt um, very ashamed.
My guest today took part in the ex-vegan survey study, and she was vegan for 2.5 years, and then an ex-vegan for 6 years. And today we'll be analyzing her vegan path and how she became an ex-vegan and what happened next. What was your personal incentive to participate in the ex-vegan survey study, and why did you want to get your story heard?
Hello, everyone. So yes, I've been an ex-vegan for 6 years and a vegan for about 2.5 years. And now I feel ready to tell my story. I feel very passionate about this still after 6 years because I started questioning veganism when I had my daughter. And I think it's now time for me, after a long elaboration of my experience, that I speak about it so that especially parents don't make the same mistakes and don't force veganism on kids. And even recently, I've seen vegans forcing veganism on animals that should not be vegan. So I think it is my duty to speak about it.
That's awesome that you have a parental experience as well and parental view on that because I myself when I started researching veganism, the pitfalls of veganism, I realized that children are the most in danger of different problems, deficiencies, the hazards of maldevelopment that can arise as a result of children following a vegan diet. So it is really valuable to hear your point of view as a parent, as a passionate person. So I'm really excited to dig in. Um,
Yes, I also wanted to add that um, I didn't feel comfortable sharing this experience 6 years ago because I felt I wasn't ready at the time. There were too many emotions going on. A feel of being betrayed by all these people advocating for veganism, and I also felt a little, um, how would I say? Stupid maybe for believing what people were parroting and in a kind of brainwashing fashion. And so I'm very grateful for you to actually putting together all this information now.
I'm very happy that you kind of came to agreement with everything that happened too, such that we can have the conversation.
Yes,
Yeah, but yeah, it's for sure it's an intense experience emotional. You know how they say that some
yes,
people, for example, they immigrate to another country and they forget that it's one of the most traumatic experiences. I feel like quitting something as serious and overwhelming as veganism is also quite a traumatic experience, and especially
it
knowing that
is.
you likely are going to get devalidated. Your experiences are likely going to be devalidated. You will be shamed for it. You will be judged for it. That adds to the whole magnitude of experiences that you already internally uh, have.
True.
So understandable. So let's talk. Let's start with the first chapter, basically, of this story. How did veganism initially come to your life? And what or who were the main sources of inspiration and influence for you?
So I had been dating uh, this man who is vegetarian, currently the father of my daughter, and I never questioned the fact that I was on a omnivore diet, and it was his choice to be vegetarian, but he had this nice approach like, I'm vegetarian, you don't need to be vegetarian, but I do it for the animals, for animal welfare, and I don't want to be part of it. And I respected that, but it kind of cemented an idea in my head that I could also maybe, be better in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And why not even better if I can, take away all animal products from my diet and maybe be healthier and not be part of any animal cruelty, any animal exploitation. And I also had somebody very close family friend who died from colon cancer, and his diet was terrible, lots of processed meat and meat in general. Uh, and I thought, I don't want to die young. So that was another incentive, especially afterwards, to stay vegan. So I started looking into veganism um, back then in I think it was 2015, 2016. Veganism was like, there were a lot of YouTube videos about it, lots of uh, people talking about it and how great it was and how it could be done easily. And so I fell for that, basically. And I decided to go vegan, like from night to day, just like that. Overnight, I switched.
Nice. So you're saying that you done some research prior to that moment. So
Yes.
what were your like um what were you studying in terms of vegan nutrition, perhaps? Like how did you design your diet initially? What was the knowledge that you accumulated in order to like make a choice for what to eat, how to build a complete nutrition? Maybe you followed some vegan MD, maybe you followed some specific protocol out there. Because for example, I think Michael Greger has his like food protocol, right? It's diet protocol. I mean that
Yes.
he lists all the foods, like something like that, or did you design it yourself?
Yeah, so he's actually one of the sources, Dr. Greger, and his like list of 12 foods that you should be eating every day for optimal health. And also lots of people saying, but we just need B12, so don't worry about the rest. You can eat 100 bananas a day and you still make the things you need. Your body will build the stuff that you need for thriving. But then you realize you're not thriving, you're just existing, you're just like surviving. But also all these people saying that the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics states that a vegan diet is suitable for all stages of life. So what's there to worry about? And even though I had some, like I was doubting a little bit, I still went for it because, I got my B12 and that was it. I was just following my kind of whole food diet with pasta and bread because I'm, originally Italian, so that's the main focus of Italian diets is pizza and pasta and bread, and then lots of veggies, beans. I added tofu into my diet, but I would eat a variety of things. I'd say whole foods was the main thing, and plus B12.
Makes sense. You mentioned that you were doubting something.
Yes.
Do you recall like what were those things that didn't fully make sense to you about veganism? Like
Yeah, the thing
the
that vegans mock people about, like, and what about protein? But I get so much protein in my diet, but I was still um, in my head, I was thinking, but what about protein? It's the first thing, right? We're made of protein.
Hmm.
So uh, after a while, after all these repetitions, all these brainwashing techniques, like you decide to accept that proteins, yeah, that's not an issue. So your body is able to produce protein from other things, convert stuff, like we're like magical machines that can create things from nothing. This is what you end up believing. Um, so I just bought my B12 supplements and went along with it. Now I know it's not exactly like this, but you know,
Yeah, we
uh,
probably all heard about the magical vegan microbiome that synthesizes everything that's missing. That's something that
yes,
I got trapped into because I remember the questions about it, and then, fatty acids, they're formed by the microbiome. Some amino acids, essential amino acids. If you're not having enough essential amino acids with your diet, your microbiome will synthesize those essential amino acids. So then even like B12, K2, everything will be synthesized by your magical uh, microbiome. So that was my thing, and that's why I pursued raw vegan diet because it was the diet that boosts your microbiome. So I was hoping that that would do something, but I guess, yeah, it's still a lot to study in the field of
yes.
nutrition for sure. So, and a lot of like pitfalls there. And I had some other note on that as well that, yeah, I had made the video about non essential nutrients because
Mhm.
I know that they say that, oh, the creatine, you form creatine yourself, but you need stuff to form all those things.
Yes.
When I found out that they completely dismiss the idea that to form non essential nutrients, you need essential nutrients in abundance. And if you are running like getting just bare minimum of everything, you're not going to have resources to form non essential nutrients that you otherwise would be getting from animal products, for example. So that's another thing that I discovered already afterwards, after I quit myself.
Yeah, there's a variety of things you learn after.
Hmm. Yeah. So I guess since your partner was vegetarian, you probably had support from him, right? While going vegan. What was
Yes,
the
he
family
still
dynamics in general?
he still asked me if I was sure about it. He asked me if you're sure, like if you did your research and you still want to do it, just do it. But he probably already researched veganism on his end and then decided
Hmm.
veganism was too extreme and stayed vegetarian. He's still vegetarian, even though, I sometimes say you could eat some fish more often or stuff like that. But it's not pushy or anything. My father was a little bit more skeptical because he's a meat lover, and
Hmm.
I grew up eating meat. And in fact, I've never been grossed out by meat in any way. At my grandfather's house, for example, we would kill chickens and cook all sorts of animals. So that wasn't an issue for me. It's not that uh, I was grossed out by killing animals or eating their flesh, like
Hmm.
vegans say.
Corpses.
Uh, yeah, corpses. There was a friend at that time that was undergoing treatment for her binge eating disorder, and when I told her that I went vegan, she told me that veganism is a form of eating disorder because the therapists she met told her that, and I was dismissive about it because I wasn't restricting portions. I was
Hmm.
like, yes, I was restricting food groups like animal foods, and that's
Hmm.
it's a huge group. But it's not that I was restricting my portions or I was not eating at all. Yes, a side effect that I was hoping for was to lose some weight. I've never
Hmm.
been like extremely overweight. I've had like always had a healthy BMI on the upper end, uh, but not obese. So would have been nice to have lost some weight. It didn't really happen though. It didn't even like I didn't even, despite my efforts, I didn't even build much muscle either on a vegan diet.
I
But
see.
I was determined to prove these people wrong, uh,
Yep.
to build muscle on a vegan diet or, um, be very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, oh, a year or two into the diet, I couldn't.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned your friend and the therapist's insights because that's something that I guess so when you hear vegans' perspective on veganism being a form of eating disorder, they say that oh, it can be an eating disorder, and some people with already existing eating disorders they choose veganism to keep nurturing their eating disorder, which is true to some degree, but they deny the fact that veganism in itself is an eating disorder, is a form of eating disorder. So that's interesting that at least in some professional circles, this idea exists. So I'm really surprised by that.
Yes, and I have to say, I was a little tired of watching portions all the time,
Hmm.
and I one aspect of going vegan was that I could eat more because I was cutting some things out. So at least I could feel satisfied after, a relatively big meal, like in volume. But then, 2 years uh, down the road, you don't feel satisfied anymore and you feel hungry all the time anyway. So the fact that you're eating big portions is no longer a plus. It's just useless.
Yeah, I hear in that too. And I remember I actually had a moment that, I used to eat like some sweets every now and then, some like foods that I was not conceptually necessarily very happy about. But when I went through a vegan, I was like, wow, I can just forget about monitoring anything at all. I just need to make sure that I get enough nutrients. Other things don't matter. And that was a really cool moment for me because I lost a lot of anxiety about food at that moment. And I felt like I can eat anything from this food group that I defined for myself. I can literally pick and eat anything in any quantities I want. And that was something that captivated me in that diet as well. But yeah,
Yes, it was the same for me. It was the same. But then after a while, it's also a restriction. Like you come to the realization that you felt so comfortable. It's so easy to choose from a menu that has only two options for you or just one option for you. There's nothing to think about. But
mhm,
no, that's not the way it is.
yeah. At the end, and eventually also those portions, they just become such a burden. It's like you just
Yes.
sit and eat and eat and nothing comes out of it, as you said. Like you don't feel like you ate, you satiated yourself.
Yeah. It
So
only happened at the very beginning.
mhm. If like in the very beginning, what was life like for you when you just switched to vegan diet? And how like did you have a honeymoon period? What like how long it lasted if so? Like do you remember yourself like
Yes.
over?
So at first, some people say that they feel really, really good at the beginning, and I think it's because most of these people are on a bad diet in general. Like, people talk about the standard American diet as the majority of people eat junk, basically. So when they cut out that, they feel, of course, they feel better for a while, but that wasn't my case. I was on a Mediterranean diet. So um, to me, it was just, I didn't like the limited options in restaurants. At the same time, I didn't have to think about it. Like no decision making at any point because it was so limited. It was just the novelty. And I don't think it was a honeymoon at all. I remember
Mm,
traveling. I used to travel whenever I can. I still travel a lot, but back then I traveled a lot. And I remember um, in restaurants. I would At the beginning it was weird to me to ask for uh, swapping ingredients, or can you not put this in my dish and stuff like that. Um, Food has always been part of the traveling experience, and veganism ruined it for me.
Hmm.
But I still tried. I still did it.
Yeah. It's actually, yeah, you mentioned the restaurants and it gave me a flashback when everybody gathers for some okay for some event or just yeah also on travels and you're that person that says that please make sure that this is without this and this. I will just eat those vegetables. Grilled vegetables was my go-to everywhere. And everybody stares at you like, oh, are you a vegan? And you're like, yes, I am a vegan. And everybody's like at the table. It was so awkward. It was just so awkward. But vegan culture teaches you to be proud of it. It's like
Yes.
you're proud of it. And I just couldn't, I don't know, to be proud of it.
Yeah, it was awkward, and now I cringe.
Hmm. Yeah, it was tough.
But yeah, so that the beginning was tough. It wasn't like what people used to say, that it's so wonderful, you feel so energized and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
just kept going because I felt like that's good for my health, basically,
Yeah,
and it's good for
makes
the
sense.
animals.
Hmm. Makes sense. And next questions kind of flows very very well with what you said last. You mentioned that you were even an activist for sometime in the middle of your veganism. What was
So
that activism?
yes, so it was mainly online, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because nowadays we have an online life, sort of, and I would argue with people about veganism online, and people in real life questioning my choice. I would say, well, if we only need B12, why don't we just do it? And if it's so easy, like, why don't you do it? Stuff like that. Why don't you try it? In hindsight, of course, that was not a good idea. I felt really stupid. And veganism in general has been a humbling experience in this sense. You're so sure about stuff and you want to share it with people, right? And the same
Mm-hmm.
way I'm now sharing so strongly about like not being vegan. You shouldn't be vegan. Like back then, I would say, yeah, yeah, that you should try veganism. It's good for everyone
Hmm.
and everything. Why don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. It does appear to you when you're in this lifestyle. It does appear like the ultimate answer for everything, for every problem that humanity and every human individually face. So yeah, it's you cannot not talk about it. I feel like until it does this to you,
Exactly.
and
And
that's
then
so.
you remove yourself from all the vegan groups, you delete
Mm-hmm.
all the comments. I remove myself from anywhere that with the word vegan or veganism. And um, yeah, so even when I hear people saying stuff about it's almost like veganism is one of those things you shouldn't talk about, like politics and religion. That's veganism is part of that.
Yeah, I'm saying that
Eh,
veganism, in fact, it can be kind of classified as a form of religion, possibly because they have an object of worship, they have dogma, they have all the teachings, they have instructions for life. So those things, they kind of like determine that veganism is religion. So it is possibly not so appropriate, and indeed to just discuss it in public. So yeah, I agree with that. But
yeah.
um, yeah, and so I guess that when you started approaching the end stage vegan phase, that's when you stopped being so active. And what made you actually realize that you had some troubles? Like, what was that?
Yeah, so the timeline of my uh dietary choices goes like this. I went vegan, and then I felt pregnant after about a year of trying, um, and then I had to reintroduce some animal products during pregnancy. Basically, I was vegetarian during pregnancy, and after that, I would be plant-based, as you know, vegans say plant-based. Like you mainly eat plants, but you here and then I would have some eggs or a little bit of cheese. But
Hmm.
it's but after about 6 months, 8 months of my daughter being born, my knee pain was awful,
Hmm.
awful. I could not go up and down the stairs. Um, it was unbearable. Like I thought, like I cannot walk basically, and the shortness of breath, despite taking supplements, iron supplements, was really bad. Like I would go for walks and could not breathe properly. I would always struggle constantly. And of course, the hunger,
Hmm.
because my meals were not satisfying. I would eat a lot, though. I was breastfeeding. So, you know, you're told that you should still eat a lot to sustain that. But my doctor at the time told me that. Um, it was time for me to start losing some weight and to eat some protein and you know, protein and vegetables at night. And I looked at her and thinking, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't want to eat animals, so how am I going to have protein and vegetables for dinner? And in my head, I was picturing a plate with some tofu and vegetables, and I was already feeling like I cannot do this. I
Hmm.
still did it, but uh, in that sense, I knew that the hunger was because of the food I was eating was not enough, and the shortness of breath gave me the idea that even though I was taking supplements, they were not working at all because I was taking iron and the knee pain. What else can that be? If it
Hmm.
was just one knee, I would say, oh, maybe that's something wrong with my ligament or something. But both knees, it's a little, you know, suspicious.
Hmm.
My hair did become dull, but I blamed the water, you know, the chlorine in water. Um, I blamed pregnancy for constipation and for my teeth discoloration and gum recession. Um, I had brain fog, but I attributed that to sleep deprivation and night terrors. I thought it was just the anxiety of becoming a parent. Um, but the knee pain especially made me snap out of my, you know, plant-based diet. It's like no more. I went to I went to the pharmacy. I bought um, collagen, a big collagen pot, like enough for a month of eating, getting collagen every day for a month, and then the pain went away. So that was my indication that it was my diet.
I see. So that was while you still were kind of vegan, right? So I'm assuming.
Yeah, plant-based.
So that
I
that,
that
that
was that in that moment I decided I'm gonna eat meat.
I see. But you were mentioning in your survey that you had been like hesitating for a whole like long 8 months.
Yeah, that was
So
the eight
that was
months
that
my
period.
my daughter was born, and she
Mm-hmm.
was
I see.
because until a baby is 6 months old, the baby still only needs your milk, right?
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
baby only needs milk. So I didn't start questioning uh, my diet and the baby's diet for 6 months, and then it was time to introduce solids into her diet. And I started with fruit and vegetables, and she was 8 months, and I thought, uh, am I giving her meat too? Eggs, cheese? You know, if then an avalanche of thoughts came through my mind that I grew up eating those things. Why should I remove those things from her diet? Why not giving her the chance to choose for herself when she's old enough to do it? And
Mm-hmm.
so I started questioning a lot of things, like those few months around uh, her being between 7 and 8 months. Those were very tough months. Internally, it was a turmoil. Uh, and yeah, I we were discussing whether she should eat vegetarian at home and then eat whatever at kids' parties or when she's invited to somebody else's place, say, and she's free. But why? Why do I need to create all these for her? And so, yeah, a lot of thoughts going through my mind at that time. And that also was like the pain in my knees and the shortness of breath added up.
Yeah, so you did try a bunch of supplements and they didn't work.
Oh,
It's
I had prenatal
mm-hmm.
supplements, like a full, whatever you need for your pregnancy, and also after that to support breastfeeding. And they didn't work because I started questioning um, absorption of these
Mm-hmm.
and of these supplements and how like it's useless. They're useless. I remember my doctor when I was pregnant and I was eating eggs at that time because of choline. She said, you need to eat eggs. Um, and I did. And actually, as soon as I realized I was pregnant, I started craving mayo
Mm.
because there's eggs in it and it's pure fat
Yeah.
basically. And so I also started craving cheese. And I remember I went to the shop and I bought a block of vegan cheese. And after uh, 9 months or so, I it was still in my fridge, untouched. I put it in the garbage bin because in the meantime I've been eating real cheese because that is what my body wanted. And in hindsight, I think I should have just eaten the meat because I was also craving what it's something that pregnant women say a lot that they crave cold fizzy water,
Mm-hmm.
and they say it's because you're iron deficient.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, I just took a supplement, and I now think I should have just eaten beef.
I see. Yeah, it's so interesting. I would like to talk to women who went through the entire pregnancy as vegans. I would be
Yeah,
curious to ask them how they managed to not eat what their body was very likely craving.
yeah, it's hard. I remember eating a lot of um, vegetarian carbonara, which is pasta, and I added mushrooms
Mm-hmm.
and raw egg yolks and like a lot, and a ton of Parmesan cheese.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor was also concerned that about the calcium in my diet. So, but I thought, I'm eating Parmesan, that will do. And she told me that my cholesterol level was, in her words, dangerously low. Uh, so I was thinking, how is that bad? That by the vegans, you're always told that cholesterol is bad for you, that saturated fat is bad for you. I was eating a lot of coconut milk. I know coconut milk, like it has saturated fat, although it's a different source.
Mm-hmm.
But still, my body wanted that type of very fatty foods. And so she said, you should eat salmon. And I sighed. But if my doctor is saying you should like I should eat salmon, like oh, she gave me a supplement, DHA supplement, and I took it. I took it, but I might have eaten fish a couple of times, but that was the extent of it. I was thinking, why, like, especially the cholesterol part. She said, like, why is this dangerous? It should be the other way around. Shouldn't she be happy that my cholesterol is low? But no, she was not. And
Yeah,
she also prescribed a huge dose of vitamin D. I was
mhm.
low in vitamin D as well.
Yeah, actually, just recently learned about the relationship between cholesterol in a woman and ADHD in children. There was
Mhm.
actually a strong correlation between having low cholesterol during pregnancy and ADHD incidence in children. So that's you had a good doctor, I should say, because I remember back in 2021, I came to the doctor for blood work for just checkup. They tested my iron, and I always had very low ferritin, like dangerously low. Like for example, nobody would allow me to, for example, get pregnant with that ferritin because that would just faint the moment I get pregnant, I guess. And so, and what they prescribed me was leafy greens and beans
Hmm.
for iron.
Yeah, I now laugh too at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've recently watched a video on YouTube because like, it was recommended to me, and I thought, oh, but let's see. You know, this lady seems to be eating all sort of foods. I usually dismiss all vegan content,
Hmm.
but she was making a smoothie for iron during pregnancy, and she was blending baby
Beans.
spinach leaves in her smoothie. And I thought, should I leave a comment saying that's not a good idea? But I didn't.
I also noticed from your survey that you did follow a low fat vegan diet for some time.
Yes, I
Why?
was hoping for fast results because that time I thought, I want to see if I can lose some weight. Again, I was on the upper end of a healthy BMI, and I thought I might just, drop, I don't know, like 3 or 4 kilos, about 10 pounds. And I joined a Facebook group. It was run by a vegan couple. They disappeared, by the way, like a lot of other vegans on the internet. But they had monthly, not challenges. It's a bad name, like a month in which you would eat very low fat on a vegan diet. It was like whole foods, but low fat vegan diets. And I I followed it religiously. No real results, really. I was just miserable because I would eat a pizza without cheese, and uh,
Crunchy pizza.
yeah, I would just have pasta with tomato sauce, but no oil. Oil was the enemy. And I remember the comments, lots of comments, especially young girls saying, I haven't got my period this month. And I remember, why are these people, uh, they listed what they were eating, and there was like no fat whatsoever. And in my head, it's like, but this is like low fat, not no fat. But I remember the hosts of these groups saying, "Oh, that is not possible that you lost your period. Surely it's something else." Especially if they're Americans, they don't want to get in trouble.
Hmm.
And I remember him saying, like, "Oh, I'd be very happy to pay for your blood tests and see if there's anything else wrong." And in my head, it's like, what are these people doing? What am I doing here? So after, yeah, about 6 months, I said, like, this is not healthy. And I switched again on to a whole food diet, but
I
with,
see.
olive oil. I've been having olive oil my whole life and coconut milk and nuts and seeds. Basically, those were
Must
the sources of fat for me.
must have been very satisfying. I like to eat something with fat again. I can't imagine 6 months.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I now every now and then I would have some oil because you go to a
Mhm.
restaurant, how it, they will put oil on stuff, but at home I would not.
So what were you eating? Like potatoes and rice and pasta
Yeah,
and all that.
rice and beans and pasta and potatoes. I
Hmm.
would, I remember very often I would make those very sad looking no oil potatoes that looked like fries, but they were not fried. They were just
They were
coated in,
dries.
yes, dries coated in salt and spices and in the oven for some time and then with some ketchup.
And you know what makes me roll my eyes right now is that I posted on my page several, like maybe a couple of weeks ago, that I went to the store, grocery store, and I saw this forks over knives or plant-based news, it's one of the magazines, one of the big magazines, and they're actually endorsed by some, as one of my subscribers wrote, they're endorsed by some big agencies, like funding agencies. So they posted the recommendations for the diet that are specifically starch, no oil, and a lot of fruits. So pretty much that protocol. And I just don't know how they are they're making it. I just don't know. I don't understand that. How they have
Oh,
mental
uh,
stamina to promote this.
I don't know. It's just maybe they're just money driven. I remember Dr. McDougall uh, had this starch solution
Mm-hmm.
diet, and lots of people were following his protocol, like many, many, many. All girls, of course, some men, but mainly women. I guess it's because of the weight loss promises, the vanity in it.
Yeah, it's like Dr. McDougall. I mean, he must have taken biochemistry. I understand that there's probably some set of assumptions, some sets of scientific insights that justify this diet. But if you just even look at the solubility of nutrients, of
Exactly,
some
but it is
vital.
something normal people don't know. Like I didn't know that in order to absorb vitamin D, I needed to eat it to have it with fats in order to absorb it, right? And so many other people, there are things you don't know. The general public doesn't know this thing, and also um, low fat diets are meant to be for a short time. Like you should follow them for a short time. If weight loss is somebody's goal, then they should just follow the diet for, say, 3 months and then switch to a regular, like, sustainable diet. This is what people think that these diets can be forever. These diets are not
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, it's usually, all those like aggressive interventions, or like even some people who take like pharmaceutical approach, right, to slim down. I heard a very good point, like long ago, by some doctor, by I think on TV. They said that if you're going with certain diet, with certain pharmaceutical to lose weight, use that time while you are on this diet to think how you're going to eat afterwards. Like
Exactly.
if you're entering this new discipline, if you are eating very restrictive diet that requires your brain, for example, for better like self-control in terms of food, do something such that you have a plan coming out of that diet, that you're not just coming back and start binging with twice the vigor on what you were doing. So yeah, that's something probably people don't realize. And then yeah, long-term adherence to those diets, yeah,
Yeah, I
it
know.
must
I saw
require medical
YouTubers,
supervision.
some YouTubers being on like no oil for years,
Hmm.
years. And then they surprised that they're not losing weight, or they don't feel well, or, and not surprising to me.
And that's also another trap I noticed that some people think that, oh, if you eat fat, if you eat oil, it just will turn into fat. It's like, it's like you don't have like digestive system with super complex like enzymes, with all those digestive juices, with different like tiers of different organs to absorb it and filter it out and convert it into everything. But and then
Exactly.
also cellular biochemistry as well. They think that okay, you drink a glass of oil and it just absorbs through some pores in your body and becomes fat around your extremities and stuff. Sometimes
Yeah, I think
I'm
it's
under that
just
impression.
yeah, it's I think another, brainwashing technique. Like the fat you eat is the fat you wear, and oh, it's the fat that makes you sluggish, or like there's a list of words that have been used by some influencers, if you wanna call them
Hmm.
that, to convince people to go vegan and to stay vegan because, but again, people don't know all these um, physiological processes and they don't know how things really work in our bodies. So
Yeah,
they cannot tell the difference between truth and snake oil.
it's unfortunate, yeah, because I mean, and not that you can really like make it a part of like mandatory part of school education or something. I don't know because it's a lot to learn. So it's I don't know what the way around is, besides just your personal proactive desire to learn it yourself. Maybe that's
Look, I come from a scientific background, and this is where I felt um, very ashamed when I decided to quit veganism. And it's that I should have questioned things a lot more and a lot like early on. And I didn't because sometimes this is what you want to believe that,
hmm
if you cut out fat, then you will lose weight or you can follow a vegan diet, taking only B12, and you will be fine. And I remember at university, I took one of the things that I studied was expression of beta carotenoids in rice, and I and people and it was taught to us. I'm talking about like more than 20 years ago, but it was taught to us as the end of hunger or the end of vitamin A deficiency in kids in Africa. But they never told us about conversion of beta carotenoids into retinol. And we never questioned that, even though the questioning is what they should have taught us, not just that this is possible, that you can feed kids vitamin A. That was not vitamin A, and
hmm
I don't think these things work. But yeah, again, like coming from a scientific background, I still fell for it.
yeah. I feel you on that too because I remember I was still in my grad school too when I was doing raw vegan diet, and I was impressed by that, and I was sharing it with people, and I feel like they probably thought that I went nuts. I don't know. And yeah, with vitamin A, with retinols, the two. You mentioned that end of hunger, but they even send supplements to those countries, and supplements don't work because they require fat, and
Yeah,
people who they don't have access to animal fat in their diet on an average day. So the supplements don't work. Like yeah, isolated chemistry doesn't work. Not even bound beta carotene. You also need to extract from some rice in some quantities. That's so data shows, so to speak, that
yeah, exactly.
it's a useless approach. But yeah, another thing here is that, you know, my pet peeve is that 20 years ago, it was B12. Then 10 years later, it was B12, let's say vitamin D. Then B12, vitamin D, omega 3. Then all of those plus something else. And then let's polish it up with some multivitamin now. There are so many things that are coming to surface nowadays. I remember I was going on a vegan diet. The argument that made it comfortable for me to do that is that methionine is harmful, choline is
Mm,
harmful in large amounts. And here's vegan diet. You see, it's deficient in methionine, it's deficient in choline, and that's good.
yeah.
And I felt falsely comfortable about it.
Yeah, the same way I felt comfortable about being low, having a low cholesterol, being pregnant, and
Mm-hmm.
thinking it was good when it was really bad. Um, and I learned being pregnant that choline was very important for the baby's development. And, like these vegans thinking they're not having any choline in their diets, that's it's a good thing, and just damaging their baby. And yeah, it's really, and that's why I'm here talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, for pregnancy, I also, by the way, never heard about it. Like, I remember my mom was pregnant for my brother when I was 12 or 11, 12. And remember, we had a lot of like magazines. She was buying magazines with different like information, like help for future mothers, for mothers of the babies. And I was reading through those magazines as well because I also was interested in the process and stuff. So never I read about choline importance. Only folate, folic acid. Folic
Yeah,
acid was the
same.
holy grail. Choline? What is choline? Like, I never even paid attention to it on the food trackers before, ever.
Yeah, I think it's because back then, people, doctors, gave for granted that women were eating an omnivorous diet,
Mm-hmm.
that they were eating eggs regularly, they were eating meat regularly, and so they never questioned the fact
Mm-hmm.
that some people might be deficient, that some people might not eat these things. So it was not an issue.
Yeah, fair. Fair. Yeah, because yeah, back then, like liver was ordinary, like part of our diet. Like
Exactly.
I ate liver all the time, for example, eggs, of
Yeah.
course. With that, actually, um, vegan teachings like they tell us that animal products are bad, they're all very harmful, that they're all just like deadly. And you mentioned that you had family history too, with observing a person who was having a very serious disease, presumably
Yes.
caused by their diet. How did you come to peace with eating animal products afterwards? Like, how did you deprogram yourself from the vegan notion that all animal products are evil, either inherently or, like fish is polluted with heavy metals? This is
Yes.
polluted with hormones and stuff. So, antibiotics and all of that. How did you do this?
So because I saw my health going down so badly, all of a sudden I thought, well, gradually I'd say, uh, but it was really bad for a short time, really, really bad. I thought, well, clearly veganism is not working. Being plant-based, even being vegetarian is not working. That's not enough. And so I remember I went out that day and it was lunchtime and I went to a Vietnamese takeaway and I ordered rice with chicken and vegetables and I just ate it. And I thought that that was the right thing to do. And I'm surprised that I went for chicken because, uh, like now I would prefer beef over chicken, but I ate the chicken bowl and I felt so good. And the day after, I went to a Japanese restaurant and I ate sashimi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the day after, I went to another like Chinese like beef place, the beef soup, like Chinese or Taiwanese, and I ate that. And after that, I went to the supermarket and I bought liver
Mm-hmm.
and I cooked it with onion that evening. And I remember eating liver and chicken liver and hearts and
Mm-hmm.
thinking this is the right thing to do. There's no like I've never been grossed out by animals and their flesh. So I if I really felt that is what I needed to do. And actually, I felt like I should have done it a lot sooner.
Hmm. So that was how you came out of vegan diet, basically, right? So
Yeah.
that was your moment.
Yes, never looked back.
Good. Yeah. So you went actually straight to everything, which is probably rare, I would say, because usually it's like let me like flirt with animal products for a little bit, and then
But
when
that is
your
because
appetite
I was
becomes.
already, sorry, that is because I was already like kind of vegetarian. I had been
Hmm.
vegetarian for a while, so I had eaten eggs and cheese, and that
Yeah. Makes.
wasn't enough. That
Hmm.
wasn't enough. And so I just then realized, so why is it that this person died of cancer, and he ate these things, but it's not just eating beef. I now like now I don't buy processed meat.
Hmm.
Now I still read the labels, but it's not because I'm looking for traces of milk. I'm looking for the nasty ingredients, and I usually buy processed stuff in general. But I've never been like the unprocessed stuff. It That was never a fear to me after making the decision of quitting veganism.
I see. So if you think about like how that vegan episode in your life, did it change anything with how you with your in your relationships with food or not? Like, did you? I mean, you sound like you're just like very comfortable and peaceful with food, but I don't know. Did do you have sometimes like flashes of anxiety still, like about eating something, or are you like totally at peace
Yeah,
with food?
I feel a little bit anxious when I am eating ham that is treated with nitrates.
Mm-hmm.
That is my concern. I just don't buy other processed stuff unless it's every now and then because my daughter wants something, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't deny that to her because I want her to have a good relationship with food. And it's not that you know there are foods that will kill you immediately if you try a little bit. Life is also good. It's beautiful because we try so many things. And so, if I have some cake every now and then, that's fine. It's not, I don't have any fears or anxiety around eating in general. I've never had
Nice.
that type of anxiety. But now, I'm one consequence of being vegan is that uh, life is too short to eat junk, basically. And so uh, I eat very unprocessed. I eat, even as an Italian, I don't eat pasta as much. Like
Mm-hmm.
I eat pasta maybe once every 2 weeks, which is
Mm-hmm.
unthinkable in Italy. And I eat rice. I'm not afraid of carbs. Like some people, they decide to quit veganism and they say, "Oh, no carbs. We don't need carbs."
Plants are killing you
But
or trying to
yeah,
kill you.
there are nuances. I eat fruit, I eat vegetables. It took me a while to go back to eating a variety of vegetables. There are some vegetables I don't eat anymore, and some vegetables I've never liked and never eaten, like
Mm-hmm.
Brussels sprouts. I don't like them. Never, even as a vegan, I've never eat them. But now I don't eat spinach because of oxalates, and it's kind of it's not a fear, but do I need spinach? Not really, so it's not a big loss.
No, yeah.
Um,
Easy to live without it for sure.
yeah. And what else? Asparagus, not one of my favorite vegetables, but then uh, in my area, I get all sort of vegetables, and I haven't eaten beans for a while. after quitting veganism, but after 6 years, I can say I eat pretty much everything.
Hmm.
I haven't done it for the first maybe 2 or 3 years. I was very focused on eating very nutrient dense foods. I would eat. Growing up, because I'm from the south of Italy, I would not eat as much butter. And
Hmm.
now I eat butter. And after quitting veganism, I ate a lot of butter. I cook my eggs in butter, and I give my daughter unlimited amounts of butter and milk and cheese. Not that she eats like a lot, or that I eat a lot, but there's no fear around the amount of butter that we eat.
Hmm.
And um, other foods that I really stressed about after quitting veganism, and also like with my daughter, we would share a dinner that was a steak cooked in butter. Uh, and she loves this stuff, and I'm very happy that she does. Um, I um, I also eat a lot of sardines, and that I didn't particularly like before. I find them really, really tasty, and I know they're very nutritious. And yeah, so for a while I haven't had a lot of fiber. And also because my daughter was so young, and other moms were stressed about, oh, this my kid doesn't eat enough vegetables. But I I came to learn that kids don't need as much fiber. They can't really process that much fiber, and fiber actually prevents other nutrients from being absorbed. So I didn't stress about it, and my daughter is now 5.5 years old, and she's 1 meter and 30 centimeters. Like she's like the tallest in her
Wow.
class, and yeah, and there's no junk at home, just nutritious animal foods and some vegetables and fruit.
Nice. Sounds really nice. That's
Yeah,
so
I'm
cool.
grateful for veganism for that. I could have ended up being, the average old lady, like very frail, or with sarcopenia or osteopenia. And now I'm more aware of the important things that will sustain, a healthy body down the road when I will become older.
Hmm.
And I can see in my family, the older generations, the animal foods were always there, but very diluted in a way. Like yeah, a little bit of cheese. Or we had this thing that growing up, I remember this fear of eggs. You were allowed only 2 eggs a week. Like otherwise, it's too. Yeah, I don't know why it's too. Like 2 eggs a week is just enough, and I have 2 eggs a day
Hmm.
for breakfast. And yeah, I
Hmm.
think I'm more mindful of what I feed my body.
Nice. Actually, you know what it made me think of too? That all of those like diets, right, exist like Atkins diet, vegan diets, plant-based, Mediterranean, carnivore, animal-based, whatever there is. I think that it's so important that we have an awareness that they exist because that allows you to study the extremes and kind of equips you to be able to change your ways if necessary towards
Exactly.
certain diet. If something goes wrong, like anything can go off at any point or may never do. But you know that it exists. And especially if you have experience trying it, you know that, for example, vegan diet is not gonna work long term. So I'm not gonna go that route. I'm not going to be excited about it. If I ever was presented any choice to change my diet sometime down the road. But when you study all that, when you're exposed to that, I feel like it's so good that we live in the time where all this knowledge is available to us because we feel like equipped and
Yes,
Have
like my mom, when I was a teenager, would cook up maybe some pasta and tomato sauce for lunch, uh, and that's it.
mm-hmm,
Because she was told that back then it was like not trendy, but it was the diet at the time that you were not supposed to add protein to your carbs, and you had to have pasta for
mm-hmm.
lunch and uh, meat for dinner. And now I have meat, like some sort of protein at every meal. Every meal I have has some sort of protein, and I'm not hungry anymore. Like I have my breakfast and I can wait for lunch to have a proper meal with protein, and then I can wait until it's dinner time to have my, again, protein and carbs and whatever meal for dinner, and I don't feel deprived.
Yeah, it's actually also I remember when I switched from vegan to more let's say animal based diet. It also was one of my favorite things was that I eat protein and fat for breakfast, for example, and I don't think about food at all, and I don't have any like energy jumps or anything like that. I don't need to run for a snack. It was so amazing. And unfortunately, there is like a notion that yeah, for breakfast you need to just load up on carbs
Mm,
and nothing else. It's in the US, it's especially popular school of thought like that cereal bowl. And
yeah.
I imagine like people really struggling because like for example, I grew up eating porridge with sugar for breakfast every morning, and I was hungry my entire like school years. I was terribly hungry
Yeah, I can imagine.
because
I
like
don't eat porridge anymore, by the way. The porridge is one of those things that, oats every day, these vegans, oats with all
mhm,
sort of fruit and nut butters. I don't have oats anymore. I
no.
might crave the creaminess of the oats cooked in whole milk,
Hmm.
but it's not because of the oats. It's because of the creaminess of the whole milk.
Now that we are in the post-vegan era, do you remember how long it took you to recover all the
Yeah.
symptoms that you developed while on a vegan diet? When what was your recovery like? Was it like you ate food and then everything just started going progressively better, or did you have some moments when you needed to adjust your ways, like something wasn't working, you had to change things, or some unwanted
So
symptoms maybe arose? I don't know.
it took about less than a month for the
Hmm.
knee pain to go away.
Wow.
Yeah, I was very concerned, very concerned. I thought I need a wheelchair, that type of thought. And after a month of taking collagen supplements, the pain went away.
Hmm.
And it took a little longer to adjust to smaller portions because, of course, as a vegan, you eat a lot of volume and your stomach stretches out. So it takes a while in that sense. Like, of course, you don't need to eat as much volume anymore because you're eating more nutritionally dense foods, but you still feel like you could fit something else
Hmm.
in your stomach.
Hmm.
I set myself, I had this rule because, when you have a baby, you only want to sleep. So after dinner, I would just uh, getting the baby ready for to sleep, and I would brush my teeth and floss, and that meant that I could not have any more foods,
Hmm.
but like no snacking in the evening. That helped. And yeah, so that took a while. I had my hair. People say after birth you lose some hair and it's normal, but um, now my hair is a lot thicker. It
Nice.
took it took a little bit, especially uh, my hairline was receding a little bit, but I think it was just like no new hair was
Hmm.
growing, but eventually it did. Took me a while to get over the night terrors. I would, like in the movies, I would find myself sitting up or screaming at night, and it hasn't happened in a while.
Well,
I still, maybe, the anxiety of being an adult with responsibility could be a factor. I cannot really say it's veganism, but um, I fall asleep a lot easier, is more easily now, and cannot do much about my teeth not looking as, like dense in a way, like the discoloration.
mm,
I notice it because I see it all the time. I don't think it is as noticeable as it used to. Um, so that's not really an issue. I don't have cavities um, anymore, like new ones.
nice.
And and also there was a little bit of like gum receding at some point, and that has stopped. Like there's no more
Good, good, good.
issues. Um, Yeah, it took some years to regulate my digestion. I think because I went from eating a lot of vegetables to eating very little vegetables.
Hmm.
And now I think I have a very balanced diet. I have uh, like also my lifestyle now that the my kid is a little older. I have more time to exercise, and that also as a it helps in this sense, but overall I can say right now I don't have any health issues. I feel mentally also sharper. I remember I thought it was just sleep deprivation, the fact that I could not remember some things, or even your the pattern on your phone to unlock your phone.
Hmm.
There were times I couldn't remember it. I have had the same pattern for 10 years, and I could not remember. I freaked out when I could not remember the pattern on my phone to unlock my phone. But
This is this
yeah,
is probably the scariest thing about veganism. And actually, like I received so many surveys. Everybody had this thing happen. Everybody had so far in the survey, everybody had teeth problems, like full spectrum. And
mm,
everybody had memory issues. And I had them too. And it was the scariest thing on the planet because I remember I'm like standing in the kitchen and I'm saying something and I'm doing something simultaneously, something automatic. And I find myself like lost. Who am I? Where am I? What was I saying? Why am I doing what I'm doing? It was the scariest thing to happen because you feel like your brain starts living its own life.
exactly.
It's, I don't know, I wish no one to experience that because I don't know, it's like because your brain is like your mentality, your consciousness is something that when you start losing control over it, you start realizing how much you're actually controlling in your life just by having this conscious mind. And when you can no longer formulate your thoughts, when you forget how you started the sentence, you cannot finish it, you forget all the words. At first, I thought that maybe, okay, maybe I'm multitasking. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm speaking a foreign language. But then it didn't matter like what I was doing anymore. It was just always, and it's very scary. And yeah,
Yeah,
it was not
I
sleep
feel
deprivation.
you because especially like I also speak multiple foreign languages every day. So I also thought maybe it's because, I speak English with my partner and I speak Spanish on a daily basis, and neither of those are my native language. And maybe I'm just tired.
Hmm.
But then I went to the supermarket and I had to pay. And I remember giving the wrong amount of money, and I like maths. It's not a matter of language, and I could not do the maths,
Hmm.
and that was also something scary.
Yeah, it's insane. And then I remember the moment when the brain switched and it was the best thing ever. It was when you know how it can be, how bad it can be when you start eating like a lot of foods that your brain needed,
Yeah.
and when you feel so much intellectual potential, when you feel so capable again. It's, I mean, best day of life.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
You became vegan, among other reasons, of course, for ethical, for environmental reasons. How do you now like justify your life choices, like basically after you've quit? How did you come to terms with what you've previously understood about the ethics and environmental impact of the diet and lifestyle?
So one of the things I've always questioned about veganism is that vegans don't eat roadkill. They
Mm-hmm.
don't eat um, what they call the crop depths are not just rats. I'm not saying they should eat rats, but there are so many more animals that die because of agriculture. So why don't they eat those animals? Um, and so that is the first thing that I think I would eat those animals, you know. I think veganism is more wasteful uh, than uh, an omnivorous diet that would just, like we are what we are. We are that we became uh, humans. The our brain developed like in a way, and because we've eaten everything basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so I think veganism is a lot more wasteful than um, vegans. Sorry, let me rephrase. But vegans are a lot more wasteful than normal people, so to speak, people that eat everything. And so to me, uh, that's a point in favor of not being vegan. So I don't feel that bad anymore for not being vegan because the environment,
Yeah.
or people that are vegan, but then they drive to places all the time, or um, vegans that would rather have fields and fields of monocrops instead of having a different approach and having cows pasture on fields and eat the cows and have one cow killed for the health and like to provide for a family for a long time instead of
Mm-hmm.
having to eat uh, say wheat or soy, even though they say that the soy is fed to the cows, but it's not like that.
Because the soy
I
fed to the cows is actually the grass that humans don't eat, so you can have both.
exactly exactly. Um, Also, uh, yeah, I came to terms that the environment is not a good reason for staying vegan, especially because what you eat is not good for your health.
Mm-hmm.
When I quit veganism, I didn't care about the environment, right? Like when you feel like your body is falling apart, you don't care about the animals, you don't care about the environment, like because unless of course like you're so brainwashed. But in my case, it was only, so to speak, 2 years and a half, but there are people I've have this friend, she's been vegan for maybe 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and she will die vegan. She has um, so many supplements. I've seen like shelves of supplements that she takes. And I often wonder uh, how are these manufacturers impacting the environment for producing all these supplements? Why don't we just eat a balanced diet and we get pretty much everything we need from the food we eat instead of having factories producing it for us? And also the
Yeah.
what people like some vegans say that the cows farting are uh polluting the air. That's something also ridiculous. And uh, there are so many other aspects I see uh, of veganism that are more detrimental to, the environment than not being vegan. So
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with that, even though, again, it's very difficult to find accurately calculated parameters for either of those debates. There are like direct opposite calculations that you can find online. And depending on what aesthetical preference you have about what to eat, you can you can start showcasing the vegan narrative and you can start showcasing the non-vegan narrative. And so common sense tells me that being non-vegan is more sustainable for multitude of reasons. I in general feel like if you are born a human, you have resources. You're like the world had resources to nurture you. You would not be born if there were no resources for you to thrive, pretty much. And so any animal would fight for their right to thrive. That
exactly.
but so I feel like everybody has right to fight for whatever is best for them. And I lost train of thought a little bit, but where was I? In the
It makes you see how the environment, in my opinion, it really is not the first concern when you don't have optimal health.
yeah, you just
In my opinion, how are these people? How are people in Africa, say,
mhm.
uh, how are they gonna care about the environment if you cannot get their basic needs met, and same for the rest of the world. This idea of a vegan world that will be better for the environment, I think it's a utopia. It's impossible. It's a philosophy. It's not. It clashes with reality of the human biology, and we can make our impact on Earth um, a little bit better, like more sustainable, but we can't really erase any type of um, trace of our life on Earth. Like we
Mhm.
cannot exist without having an impact, and
Yeah.
so the impact should be like what you cannot help, but still maintaining your needs met. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That really resonates with my viewpoints as well. And I feel like when we have such an overproduction of certain like goods, like some fast consumption of so many goods, I feel like we have so much bigger issues than cows.
Exactly.
It's when you look at all of those factories, it's like for some reason people are always like to blame for some miscellaneous influence on the earth when there are mega factories producing so much pollution, producing so much waste. Like if we like even look at the like fashion industry, we look at all the like home goods industry, like this disposable garbage that just ends up everywhere. That's so horrendous, and that is something that's not necessarily necessary for human survival. But the attack is on something that is fundamental human right and fundamental human need.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, I don't know if this is an agenda or I think it's just this, factories, these big, huge companies that see their um, income threatened by the fact that they are not necessary. Like
Yeah.
we can live without them perfectly and actually be healthier if they didn't exist. Like who needs M&Ms to
Hmm.
thrive? Nobody.
Yeah, because all of that like everything that stems from like sugar industry, for example, the grain production industry. It's like you go to the stores, there's you see so much packaging everywhere, so much packaging, so many synthetic ingredients. It's like masterpieces of chemical industry, pretty much, and
Yes.
all heavily packaged. There's like box, there is a plastic bag inside. There's some like paints that possibly with some metals and stuff, and it's so much unnecessary crap. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Also, the fact that, we now have bananas all year round,
Mhm.
mangoes all year round, and as a vegan, you say, well, I eat all sort of fruits and vegetables, so it's so nice. Yes, but that fruit has traveled a lot from Peru, from I don't know, very far away to get on the shelves in your local supermarket, and that has an impact in on the environment.
And then how much got wasted in this process too, because the losses that this industry undertakes, that's why they have this. I read when back when I was raw vegan, I got really concerned because there was this startup, I think Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was funding it with that coating for produce because they said that the produce waste is one of the super concerns for our agriculture and for food industry in general and for ecology. We're producing much more produce than we can dispose. So they were trying to produce some coating that would prevent premature rotting of the fruits, basically making them eternal, which is bullcrap idea because you lose nutrients the moment you rip the fruit off the branch. And the longer it sits on the shelf, the more loss of the nutrients is happening. And I guess maybe that they were trying to tackle that as well, but I doubt that. No, because there's natural breakdown happening on the inside.
Yes,
So they had this. So this issue exists, and all this transportation that happens. Also, they pick the fruits when they're unripe. How I like to joke is like they pick them while they're still flowers, such that they ripen on en route to supermarkets all
yes,
over the world. No nutrients, ton of waste, and what's the point? We have it just to brighten up our shelves at the store, I guess. Make an illusion that it's something super healthy, and
yeah. And we're used to have everything all the time. We
mhm.
used to have, I don't know, like apples in winter and watermelon in summer, and now we can have whatever we want whenever we want. And yeah, and again, we're questioning cows instead of
Mhm.
the system around other other things that we can do without and still have a perfectly healthy life.
Yeah, yeah. There are ways to optimize. I think food industry in general, and in general, like I my pet peeve is that food industry is called food industry. Why is it an industry?
Yeah.
Why do we need some? I don't know, like machinery. Why do we need some manufacturing powers to make food, which should come from nature? That's
Yeah.
so. And actually, on this topic, I have a question to you. Do you notice that there is some alliance between veganism and corporations? Does it concern you if you notice that? And what do
Um,
you think? Your prediction for what would happen? Would become a global trend or not?
so I've been thinking about it a lot because uh, I look around on the internet, especially all these. Sometimes they still do veganery and stuff like that. There's always like new vegans, and there are some companies that support this, especially the cereal industry, uh, and other industries that vegans should know. Sell all sort of foods, not only vegan foods, but they just want to get money from everyone. And I think it's not that they want a vegan world. I think they want vegan money as well as everybody else's money. And so if there is a vegan movement, well, I think they will just jump on onto that train and say, yeah, we support veganism and we do have vegan products and you should buy them. So I'm not really concerned about it. I think some people believe that they can change millennia of evolution in just a
Mhm.
couple of generations of being vegan, but we know that, I don't know, maybe 80% of vegans uh, quit after a short time or eventually, and they they quickly realize that there's no there's no way of being vegan and vegan for life and vegan for generations. There's no way. So I'm not concerned about corporations, like supporting veganism.
I imagine, though, my concern there would be that I assume that the same people who control, let's say, meat industry, they would control vegan industry. And for them, it will be, you know, how corporations do artificial competition.
Yeah.
And there will be this dynamics that might make animal foods less affordable, such that there's more artificial incentive to purchase vegan alternatives, for example. So I think some economic repercussions may follow that because,
I I am not concerned as an Italian.
mhm.
I'm not concerned
Okay.
because um, and in Europe in general. I think the governments realize that that cannot happen, that they
I
cannot
see.
let that happen. And in fact, in many countries, you cannot say vegan meat or something like that, or you cannot. It's not even the naming is not allowed, uh, and they they realize that um, that's not possible in countries, especially countries where the uh, public health system cannot take on people that are not healthy.
Hmm.
Where we have free health care, and I cannot imagine uh, the uh, the state being able to treat all these deficient vegans. And in Italy, especially, all the dietitians have, in the years that I've heard of, and especially on TV, those that are constantly on TV, they always push for variety in the diet, for eating everything.
Hmm.
So I'm not too concerned about it. Maybe in the US, but I think people are waking up. Recently, they are realizing that they are that their government is allowing these companies to poison people, and the same products in the US and in Europe don't have the same ingredients.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure.
So,
It's like, you see, I'm like probably have artifact of being in the bubble right now, right? So
hmm,
I'm doing a lot of all those studies. Why my concern arises is because when I do literature search on the subject of veganism, there is disproportionate amount of articles that talk about the benefits, then of dangers, and then of actually explicitly talking about the health benefits of animal products. You need to go out of your way. You need to search very specific terms to get exposed to those things. And there's a huge shift. And I know that the baseline that those studies are using as standard American diet, it's literally the other side of food industry that
yeah.
that produced all those comorbidities that is now being addressed by the magical vegan diet that they use short term and see some results and report on them. So that's why I'm probably more concerned about that because scientific world is infiltrated with that. And the studies are usually quite they again without proper baseline, without proper one-to-one comparison, you just cannot call it science. It's
Yeah, definitely.
so so that's why yeah, I'm a little bit maybe nerd. But your point is I agree with your point too. And it's I know that like in France and Italy, yeah, they had the protection of farmers, they have protection of legacy of animal products too. That's very nice to see. And I hope that it will stay
Yes.
that way.
I'm only concerned, like recently I went to the local, it's not a hospital, but like health center, and I noticed on the walls recommendations. And one of the recommendations was to avoid, like very processed stuff, and at the same level they put red meat and processed meat.
Hmm.
And there's still this misconception that red meat and processed meat are the same, and
Yeah,
they're not. And
every time.
I, I, and even some other people I know that are, are scientists, and they still think that red meat is something you should not be eating. And I think that is more dangerous than, big corporation in marketing and stuff like that. If a health professional is saying that you shouldn't eat red meat too often, then I'm more concerned because then, people that don't know any better will do that with
Hmm.
some consequences.
They'll have anemia very rapidly.
Yeah. And especially, girls and kids in
Yeah.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, I had period life without red meat, so that was my 13 of 10. It's-
Well,
I had this super low iron, and that I couldn't treat with any interventions, even with supplements. So
did
that's,
liver
yeah.
work?
Hmm? Liver, I should
Did
actually
liver
test.
work in the end?
I should test. I didn't test
Mm.
it in my recent one. I probably should go get it done because I'm very curious. It should.
Yeah. So when I was uh, out of breath all the time, I thought I was anemic, but
Hmm.
my blood tests didn't show anything worrisome, And but I'm still convinced that it was because of that, of iron, because as soon as I started eating the right foods that went away. So that's another thing to consider. In general, like blood tests are not too reliable, unfortunately. But
Now, many people don't even know what to test for sometimes because vitamin D, I did know like my bones were falling apart because I learned randomly that with vitamin D, you need to test parathyroid hormone. Who knows
mm,
about it? Who talks about it? You go to the doctor, they're like, oh, vitamin D, okay, here's your vitamin D. You're like, okay, I'm in reference range. What to do with this information? But then I did this hormone test, and then again, I randomly learned about from some random video that I watched online. Turned out that I had hyperparathyroidism and my bones were effectively falling apart. So, like,
well,
so I mean, without that, I would not have known. And so with iron too, there is like whole art of like reading the blood work. You need to watch it and like trends for yourself. So you need to have some data before and after to watch it with time
yeah,
because reference ranges are also they're arbitrary. You need to know what your dynamics is. So for you, veganism,
mm,
something like something happens for you, veganism never again or depends.
never again.
Never again.
There's no question about it. It cannot change the past.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my vegan experience could have been shorter. That would have been better to be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, uh, yeah, definitely never again. But at the same time, I'm grateful for the things I've learned and how I think I'm living my life right now that will lead to a better, um, a better time when I become older.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm more aware of the food I'm eating, but never again.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And I had this question, this like creative question, it comes for about some hypothetical situation that
Hmm.
if you were to meet someone and you kind of make friends, and then that friend during some casual conversation tells you that they want to go vegan, what
Yeah.
would you tell them?
So I would tell them that, I've been there, I've done that. If you really think that it's something you want to try for yourself, do it. But you need to know that there are limitations to it and that there's no way of doing veganism right. It's
Hmm.
like an oxymoron. Veganism and health long term don't go together. And I don't even see the point of going vegan. For somebody that has never been vegan, I would suggest that they eat better, that they eat seasonal, that they eat unprocessed if they really care about their health, the environment, and the animals to source ethically. But there's no need to go vegan. There's no reason to go vegan.
I see. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, you're saying that there's no way to be a healthy vegan long term. There's so many people who argue in the comments that they've been vegan for 20 years, for 30 years, 50 years, million, thousand years, and they're still doing good. I don't know. I mean, it's hard
Maybe
to.
they're cheating.
It's also, yeah, what is good for you? And what I noticed also that people who come from, for example, like standard American diet or some like super hardcore animal heavy diets, they tend to maybe last longer,
Hmm.
which was probably not the case for you, which was not the
No.
case for me. So the term for people who already were not on animal heavy diets
Yeah.
probably is shorter because it takes faster to exhaust all the stores.
Yeah. I think sex and like gender and lifestyle are another factor
Hmm.
for, people that can be vegan for longer. Or also genetics. Maybe Asians do better eating rice all the time compared to Americans or Europeans. So I don't know,
They don't
but
process
definitely.
vitamin A though. They don't process beta
Ah,
carotene well.
okay. See.
Yeah.
So no one can really be vegan long term.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think so as well. And yeah, I mean, when you look at statistics, it doesn't work. There are outliers that claim that they're doing good. And then it's also, yeah, lifestyle. Yeah, they show like in the news, some like guy sits and meditates somewhere in the mountains of India, does approximately nothing else in life. Of course, they like vegan, barely alive. Maybe that works, but for people living life, yeah, you run into so many things. It's nuts. So, in the last question here, in your opinion, what could each human, each person do to improve maybe the world, to positively contribute to the world and to possibly improve their life? Do you have any like formulated?
Yeah. So I think I would say, buy local, buy seasonal, don't overconsume. I see all these people that are like obese and, like, why are you consuming so much? I mean, there must be some underlying issue. But
Mhm.
what I'm saying is if you don't need to eat more than what you need, and um that's also something one could do. Not over consuming, staying at a healthy BMI. Um, instead of driving to places, cycle to places, maintain a healthy, active lifestyle. Like uh, especially buy better food instead of more food, more nutritionally dense instead of like a lot of junk.
Good, good advice. And
Yeah, maybe if you're super rich, don't have your
mhm.
private jet and like flying and everywhere all the time. But that's up to them to decide.
Yeah, I mean, why become super rich if you can't afford different pleasantries, right? Yeah, and maybe you have some words for parents, by the way. That's something that not like, I was not aware about your story with your daughter. And
Mhm.
now that you're so passionate about it, I'm curious if you had something to say to vegan parents. Let's say parents watch us and vegan or parents who like sympathize to vegan diets. What would
Hmm.
be your message to them?
Yeah, it's really tough because you really don't want to tell parents how they should raise their kids. Uh, but especially veganism, it's such a dangerous thing to force on a kid, and they think they know, but they don't. Like I didn't, and I thought I had all the resources and like the background to understand these things, but um, kids need the chance. They cannot force veganism on them. It's too much of an experiment. And I see these videos of vegan kids with very sparse hair and with very narrow shoulders. And, they, it takes them so long to start walking properly, and it's really concerning. And I think dogma should not have a place when it comes to kids' development and their well-being. They should be given the chance to decide when they're older and fully developed. They can then decide if they want to go that path, but down that path. But otherwise, it's really dangerous. And I've heard other parents saying, but it's like 2020 something, and they say kids, like, people don't need that much meat, and like, and I still cannot shut up. I right like it's so dangerous, so dangerous. It took me 6 years to actually decide to uh, uh, speak out about this because it's such a sensitive topic. But kids are so frail. They're developing. They need key nutrients. They need saturated fat to develop their brains. And I'm so glad that even though there are like doctors now, pediatricians that say, don't forget your fruit and vegetables, they still say kids need saturated fat. Eat, yeah, like your like full fat yogurt, and don't deny fatty foods to your kids. And it's so important, so important.
Yeah. I wish people hear this message because yeah, it's not a joke. You grow 3 kilograms of body into full like 60, 70, 80
Yeah,
kilograms of an adult with all the brain also developing. Still, it's such a critical point in life, and nervous system requires so much, and but
yes,
you don't want their body to sacrifice resources to form something essential. Yeah.
exactly. And
I'm
these
really
kids are usually shorter than average. Like it's been, some years now that
mhm,
I've read somewhere that they're on average shorter than other kids,
mhm.
and so that's really concerning.
Yeah. And they're shorter, but why? And that why maybe may have a
Yeah.
whole like whole underwater part of the iceberg. All the
Yes.
reasons why they're short. It might be just a symptom of something much bigger, systemic.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for sharing that as an experienced person. It's really, really valuable. I'm very
You're
happy
welcome.
we've
I
touched up on
really
that.
I really thank you for like going through this gathering of information from ex-vegans, and that's something that hasn't been done before, really. Uh, and I think I hope like this gets to as many people as possible so that they don't make the same mistakes, you know.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's I'm up to do a lot of work processing all that and analyzing, but it's really interesting to look into that and to see that the experiences are not unique for the most part. They're just not unique. They're systemic, and that is might be very eye opening for a lot of people who are not exposed to that knowledge yet.
Yeah. Also, I don't care if vegans say, "Oh, but she did veganism wrong. He did veganism wrong." There's no right way of doing veganism. Veganism is a philosophy, and I think it's really good that as humans we are compassionate and that we want our environment to be, sustainably. Used by humans and that animals are treated well, uh, but it's still a philosophy, and there's nothing you can do against nature and the human physiology and biology.
Yeah, that's something that's might be hard to swallow,
Yeah,
but yeah, we need to respect that because we are part of nature. So
exactly.
yeah, so thank you so much for being here today and for answering the
Thank you.
questions. It was really awesome to talk to you, and you provided such a plethora of available information. I'm really happy that we had the chance to talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.